Hello, welcome everybody. This is, I guess, our first real live stream that we've done together, right?
Yep.
All right. So I think today we're going to mainly do Q&A. There were some things I wanted to do some updates on, but I had a headache yesterday and today, and I feel like I'm coming down with allergy infection or something. So I'm not as my brain's not working as well as it normally does. So I'm going to answer these questions the best I can.
We should have enough time today to get through several questions that are in the chat and questions that we have been asked. It seems like the most questions we've been getting lately were on episode 5, which was released on YouTube, which was mainly about the solar event. And it's kind of like there's so many details to what we could predict or what we could say about what might happen in the future. And people have specific questions, even going as far as talking about anything that happened to our gasoline, our fuels that we have stored. It's like there are so many questions like this. I wonder if these are bigger areas of research that need to be done by people, and including Ben Davidson, who does the Suspicious Observers channel. He's kind of figuring out all these preparation areas that may be too specific for what Corey has in his awareness. But it is good to know. Corey, do you have a general idea of what kinds of items that you feel like you would need to take into the mountains, and what kinds of resources you need to generate? Do you have any plans for, what? These are different questions that came up from different people, like about water, about gasoline, plumbing. What is it that we would plan to do?
I mean, I'm not a prepping expert by any means, so do your own prepping research. But I would count on electricity. The main transformers that they would have to replace in a situation like that take like 6 months to even build or something like that, and then they have to be flown in a helicopter. They're huge, and putting these in these strategic locations to be able to give unified electricity, at least in the United States. Different grids and different zones. And it depends on where you live. Texas has its own electrical grid, and depending on the severity, some of the grids may be down for longer. Depending on the resources of your state, it may take longer for them to obtain what they need and get it in place to allow electricity. I mean, that will be pretty much their top priority, because you can't pump water without electricity, and without water, people start dying within days. So, the main thing is to have not just a good stock of water, but a way to purify water. Of course, we've stocked some freeze-dried foods, and Stacy, we've stored a lot of beans and stuff like that, but this type of stuff is just short term. We don't know how long, depending on, you need to be prepared for the long term, in my opinion. It could be just 4 months or 6 months in your area, and then electricity starts being restored, or it could be 2 years. And you need to be able to, provide for yourself, or have items in your possession that you can trade. If you're not in a position to grow food, you can't eat bullets, you can't eat gold and silver, but you can trade it for food. And those, really in that type of scenario, beans and bullets are the main trade. That's really all I can think off the top of my head. But you have to understand the difference between a short-term preparation and a long-term preparation. Having the seeds and everything, and you need packed away, and a place where you can grow things. And there will be probably people coming together to do co-ops. So sort of finding neighbors or people in your part of, like, in your town that, think sort of the same. I know there's like meetup groups that you can go to, websites where you can study prepping. You don't have to talk to them about a solar flash occurring, because, I mean, these people are already paranoid, and maybe rightfully so. Last thing you want to give them, you don't. I wouldn't bring up the solar flare. I would just come in as a fellow prepper saying, society is kind of going to hell. I just want to be prepared, and start doing research with them, maybe form, buy a little bit of land together and form a little co-op group that you have a place to go, within 2 or 3 hours of your house, or, closer. Because, I mean, if you have a new vehicle, your car is not going to work. The electronics are going to be, EMP'd and not working. Older cars, will work, but you need to have thorough plans on getting from your house to your safe location, and in a plan after everyone gets there, who's going to be responsible for what, how are you going to work together, how are you going to protect your resources. It sounds very, very bleak, but it's a reset time period to where, we're going to move into a time to where we are more self-sufficient. And, it's not that far back that people were self-sufficient. Even when I was a kid in the 70s and 80s, my grandparents had root cellars, and there was all types of food and canned goods and jars full of even meat and food and stuff. And my great-grandparents as well. So we're not that far removed from being able to take care of ourselves like this. We've just become so dependent on local commerce, on the internet, that it just scares us to think about. But, there was a time when we didn't have cell phones in my lifetime. I had to drive around town and figure things out without a cell phone. I didn't have GPS. I remember what that's like. And, a time of being a bit more self-sufficient and less reliant on technology. So, I mean, it's just something, some sort of short-term headache that we're going to have to deal with as a part of this great solar system reset.
Thanks, Corey. Yeah, it's interesting to me. I've wondered about, like, the Carrington event, and like how much can we extrapolate from what happened during the Carrington event to know exactly what happens to, like, different metals. Like, did certain metals end up melting, and would you not want to make sure you weren't canning with those metals or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, metals were affected in the Carrington event. Pennies were melted together in people's pockets, Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, you do want to avoid metals with your food for sure. But a lot of the newer information coming out about how our atmosphere works, as opposed to what they used to think when they were writing up a lot of these ideas of what's going to happen when the pole shift occurs, that there's just going to be complete cataclysm. I think the what was that time period? It was like 11,500 years ago, that young Adrias. I believe that is comparable to what we're going to have to deal with. And, they had high winds, water, came out of the ocean, out of its basins and onto land, and there were tsunamis, but it did not completely wipe out humanity. Now, there are a lot of, like, if you live on the coast, like 80% of humans live on the coast or are within a certain distance of the coast. Those people are going to be a lot more vulnerable, and hopefully will pay attention to the signs, because it's not just going to be, out of the blue, the sun just explodes and everyone's like, freaks out. And there's going to be a lead up, even now. We've noticed the sun has turned white. It used to be yellow when I was a kid. People my age and, remember the sun is changing, and there's going to be more and more signs. There are going to be more and more disturbances and weird occurrences on the sun that are going to start being more and more signs. And they're going to start talking more about solar winds and affecting our electronic civilization. We're going to start hearing more and more about that because the sun is going through a period where its activity is picking up. So there's really no way of knowing how big of an event this is going to be. We don't know if this is going to be one of the major events that really shakes the planet up, or if it's going to be more moderate. We know it shouldn't be a minor one because we've had minor ones, and usually in the cycle there are minor ones, and then a moderate or major one occurs. But we don't know exactly how bad it's going to be. We just don't, and we won't know until it happens. But it's not going to totally catch us by surprise, especially people that are paying attention to my information and other people that have been talking about this, like Ben Davidson.
Yeah, it's interesting. I come across people just in the local community who have no idea about your information, but they do know about other information about what's been called like the kill shot or other kinds of remote viewers or researchers who strongly believe that this event has always been inevitable based on their information. But do you feel like other information out there is often more distorted in terms of making it doom and gloom or more intense than it actually will be?
I think it was the science of the time when like Charles Hapgood and Chan Thomas, I think his name was, came out with the Adam and Eve story that was classified by the CIA. Our understanding of the atmosphere and a lot of the dynamics going on the Earth were not what they are now. They were picturing the Earth is spinning, and at the equator, the atmosphere is traveling about 1,000 miles an hour, and they were talking about the Earth just stopping, and then but all of the air and water keeps going, basically. And so depending on where you are latitude-wise, you're going to have up to 1,000 mile per hour winds. Well, they've learned that it doesn't work exactly that way. I don't know the way to describe the way it does work. The research is out there, but it is going to be a very, very bad day on Earth, but not as cataclysmic as they believed back in the 60s and 50s. But, we don't know for sure. But we just know we're overdue for a moderate to large event. And, we've been overdue for a while.
Mm-hmm. I think at one point you also said it could depend on how the energy comes off the sun. Will that determine where it hits on the Earth, how strong on different parts?
Yeah, because if you have a 360 full circumference mass coronal ejection, it doesn't just uniformly explode off of the sun, and then expand into the solar system. It's clumpy. We could get hit with a lot of plasma and other solar debris, or we could just get hit with the fields in between them. So it's kind of it's like a shotgun effect. And if you happen to be in between the shotgun pellets, or if one of the pellets happens to glance you, you're far better off. But that is also why our intelligence tells us that the Orion group is trying to take control of the moon again and get it in working order to where it can control its orientation. And we think that they want to once again place it between, as an eclipse between the sun and the Earth during the solar event to protect the Earth and their artificial technology and all of their technological assets on this planet. So there's a battle going on over the moon. Some of the I'll mention a little bit of the new intel. We haven't gotten a whole lot of details, but the factories on the moon that were building the med beds, and they called them some neuro something kits, but they were just a kit with a chip in it, and it was the delivery system and the chip for implantations. They had factories building both of those down in the LOC Bravo, and they had taken over the LOC Charlie, Lunar Operations Command Charlie. They had the tall, blonde Galactic Federation of Worlds types take it over, and then they had these machines that they put down, look like not exact cubes, but close to cubes, and then they would just open it, and then they would just keep opening it, and it was this big device. And they were creating components for med beds that the small gray android types were then putting together. And they were also putting together in an assembly line these chip kits. And somehow they were able to set off a explosion with an EMP in the LOC down in the LOC Charlie. And when I say they, the SSP Alliance and the former Global Galactic League of Nations groups, they were able, with the help of Emmy, to portal in this device. It was a bomb, but it wasn't. The explosion was not meant to cause a lot of destruction around. It was a component of the technology to make this big pulse. And it exploded, and it destroyed these labs and these assembly lines that were creating these technologies that were going to be used to start implanting humans. So that was a pretty big blow to their, it was a setback to the Orion group. And apparently they are setting up in another area in the solar system, setting up these technologies to build the transhumanist technologies that they're going to try to force many to take.
And you said that would happen later this decade, do you think, or when that starts being something we have to worry about?
I think in the beginning, these med beds and injection kits or chip kits are going to be available to like the elite. So many of the elite who are just part of this old religion, but are not chipped or are not tapped into the AI God, as they call it. I think those people are going to start being implanted over the shorter term, and it's going to be influential people that will, try to influence the rest of the population to do the same.
Is it going to make them like more intelligent, more attractive, more capable?
It's going to make them more capable. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is that kind of like you're wired into like an internet all the time?
They say it's not all the time. They say it becomes kind of like a daydream. How you go from like consciously working on something, and you sit back and go into a daydream. They say you shift into that internet type. It's not really an internet, but it's a network that you shift into as a level of consciousness almost.
But at the same time as you can tap into that, they're also kind of tapped into you so that you can kind of become a tool whenever they want.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And who knows, it could take over and you could have no memory.
I see.
That's what was happening quite a bit.
And do you think that's often connected with the idea of entity attachments then? Is there like some Does something replace you if that AI takes over your consciousness?
I don't know about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's strange to process sometimes. We could get into other subjects that were asked about, and we can switch back and forth between the questions asked previously and the questions coming up in the Q&A tab. So, do you know how long Earth has been a genetic experiment for?
Since the barrier fell, and that was anywhere like
I think you said like 500,000 years.
Yeah, 500,000 years. Yeah.
And that's basically, your information was very close to what the raw context said also about an event occurring with, I forget if it was Mars or Maldek happening back then. Another question here is about animals. Are animals going to be taken care of in some kind of way, or is it even not even a matter of the animal's karma? It's just sometimes a natural disaster is just part of their life cycle.
Yeah, I mean, countless animals have gone extinct throughout these different cycles. It's just nature.
Do you feel like this solar event is a kind of karma, a collective karma?
No. And humans and a lot of people I've talked with recently, humans have this very small-minded, narcissistic view of themselves as a collective. This cycle was occurring on this planet far before humans were here. It occurred when the dinosaurs were here. It occurred while all the animals in between were here. And no matter how good or bad they were as animals, or it's just nature. It's a cycle. And, it's a cycle of a physical cycle of our solar system, but it's also part of a wider energetic cycle that occurs in each galaxy. And in our part of the galaxy, we're just going through it. It's a natural cycle, and different types of beings arise and evolve on planets that, this happens over billions and billions of years. Life arises and falls many, many times on some of these planets. And sometimes intelligent life arises and it is knocked down a couple times before, by this process. It has nothing to do, honestly, with us. We're just along for the ride. Now we're benefiting from it, and we have our own relationship with the process on more of a micro scale. The macro scale is happening in the galaxy, but we're our own universe, sort of from our experience. So we're having our own reaction to these energetic changes. But it's not karma from us being a bad species, which, humans are not considered a positive species. And we have all of the different, narcissistic types of defenses. It's not my fault, I'm a victim, as a collective. But we are not considered good guys out there. And a lot of, in the community, it's, we like to think, humans, we're just fallen gods. We're loving, we've got a lot to prove to the cosmos and to our local neighborhood. We we treat each other horribly. So, but we're just, part of the human natural cycle of intelligent development on our planet. It happened on many, many other planets, and they had their difficulties in their solar systems because of their own unique dynamic environments.
It's interesting also in the raw contact, they very clearly state that the Lemurians who lived, on a continent called Mu, I guess, their continent sunk 50,000 years ago, and the raw contact states that it had nothing to do with the fact that they did something. They were completely positive, a very positive advanced race of humans on Earth, and yet still their continent sunk at the end of that cycle 50,000 years ago. And so it kind of says that it really isn't about karma. But I do have a question that I've been thinking about. Like, I see the sun as being like a very intelligent superconscious that's almost like, it's like a local manifestation of God in some way, how alert and awake it is. And I guess loving, we may be able to see it as. So do you think that those pellets that it shoots that are like specifically, would they be specifically targeted at different areas of the solar system when it's shooting the bursts?
I don't know. We're talking about the mind of God, trying to speculate on the mind of God.
Yeah, it's very interesting. We could get to some other questions here from the Q&A. Trish asked, are our galactic cousins reaching out to us in dreams currently that you're aware of?
Yes, they've been doing that with us for some time. They work with people in their dreams and meditative states. Quite a bit. They work with people also depending on how their higher self has agreed to interact. So in some cases, people may want this type of contact, but your higher self is, no, they're not ready. Let's just wait, and then you don't get the contact when you want it. So I don't know. Go ahead.
Are there a lot of races involved with that? Do you know if there are specific ones? Is it this local 52 group?
There's far more races involved than I'm even aware of. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is the oceans or the Zulu. That was their pastime. They didn't develop technology. They developed the ability to remote view and different planets in great detail. And they were viewing different societies, different wars, different Renaissance periods going on different planets, and having an influence as well. And the Anshar have done something similar. There are many, many groups that have been working with humanity, but the positive ones, they're very concerned about becoming karmically entangled with us, so they're very careful what they do. Remember, the ancient builder race or the Ra group, they brought material down to benefit humans, and then as soon as they left, humans started perverting it and turning it and twisting it into control systems and that sort of thing, which karmically tied them to us. And most of these beings they're just doing what they can according to cosmic law to try to help us and nudge us in the right direction without becoming karmically entangled.
There's a question about a race you referred to as the Shining Ones. I don't remember exactly what post that was or where you're talking about that. Are they playing a role in assisting us?
Yes, they're taking part in they're doing something to do with these big galactic trials, and they're like happening on like an energetic level. They basically take beings into the cosmic web during certain energetic pulses, and the cosmic web like judges it. It's an energetic thing that occurs on that level, and they're participating in that. They're acting kind of like the what do you call it? I can't. The guy, the security guy in the court, that kind of hands documents back and forth, or if you act up, he'll arrest you and take you out of the courtroom. Can't remember what they're called, but they're acting in sort of that sort of a role.
Mm-hmm. We had a question here about trauma from abductions. Do you feel like you wouldn't recommend regression hypnotherapy? And do you have any other ideas what people could do going through that kind of trauma?
I mean, it depends. If you're mostly adjusted right now and you're doing okay, and you know that you're being abducted, but you don't have all these traumatic memories, why dig them up? Right now, I don't know. I think that's more of an individual kind of thing. And, I've known some people recently that have looked into those things and done regressive type of therapies. And I don't know. I don't know. If you feel the need, then to regress, then find someone that has a good, at least 5 years of regression therapy, because a lot of times these people accidentally, if they're doing regressions with a number of different people and they're hearing similar things, then they have expectations, and then they start leading you. Oh, did you see this on the wall? Or did you? And they start implanting memories or experiences, and it muddies the water up really bad. So if you feel inclined to do that, find someone who is truly a professional.
Mm-hmm. I think we have some questions coming in about how far off the coast people should live. And do you think it's about a distance from the coast, or is it about an elevation?
It's both. It depends, again, where you are. Like in the United States, the only super safe place is east of the Rockies. The ground is real flat there. There are areas of elevation, but the water just flows around it and sometimes over it. If it is that catastrophic of an event this time. I mean, I don't know. I think that most of the population lives within 90 miles of the coast. And I would think, being at least a few hundred miles away from the coast will at least also give you more time to react and start moving to higher altitudes and safe zones.
Yeah, I was switching back and forth here between the latest questions and the questions asked previously here.
But I mean, and just in general, the people, I would suggest, and I know it's financially difficult for a lot of people, but around now, start trying to move away from the coastline and into more of the safe zones. I moved my family here 5 years ago. I was so affected by what I saw. So, it just depends on how really serious you are about it all. So we have time. Like I said, there are ways to get together with groups of people and, buy pieces of land and build it out and fairly inexpensively. So there are ways to do it. You can't just throw your hands up and say, "Oh, I'm poor." You may have a skill that someone needs in one of these co-ops. You may not have money to buy land, but if you can bring in a skill and you can help them prep and help them build up and have a role to play in that little society, for a short term, then there are many ways to secure your spot on the life raft, I guess you could say.
Yeah, always be working on your skills. That's a huge point to remember that there's so much opportunity for us to learn now. Learn all the tricks people have been learning for survival. No one has had this kind of access, prior to us with the internet, of being available to learn about all the different aspects of our reality that we've been going through. So we've gotten a few questions. It's funny, we're still getting questions about Nibiru, Planet X. Did you ever hear anything about those names?
Yeah. Nibiru was a star, brown dwarf or whatever, that passed through our star system like 70,000 years ago. You can still track it. You can track it. I mean, it's not on a 5,000 year whatever that I guess that was taken from the Sumerian texts, and I don't know, but we do have a brown dwarf sister star to us, but it never comes any closer to us than it is. It's on a little bit of an elliptical orbit with us, but it is far out of the solar system, and it perturbs comets every once in a while, but it never enters our star system and then leaves like that story goes. So I can only speculate on where this full story comes from, but I never heard anything about it when I was in the programs.
And it did seem like a lot of that information was probably a mistranslation that people originally were writing about. You got some information like that from the Anshar, right?
I don't fully follow.
Yeah, I remember in your library tour of the Anshar, I forget the name of the. Maybe it's better we not even go into it. I guess it's kind of just people's belief systems.
Yeah.
So we have people talking about that they depend upon medical devices. I assume there's all the electrical equipment will be not working properly, so you probably should find an alternative.
Yeah, hopefully there is one. But if you're reliant on any type of technology, you're going to have a problem for months to years.
Mm-hmm. So do you think there's a point at which star seeds go home? I think some of these we've discussed recently, but how do you feel about, are people's souls going to leave, or is it only when they die that they go back home?
Well, for a lot of star seeds, I mean, this just is their home now. They're a part of this mass consciousness now. They've been dumped here by different planetary systems for eons, and they've become a part of this incarnation cycle. Very few of the star seeds that are a part of this incarnation cycle with us on this planet are going to be removed. There's so many different, in this community, there are so many different belief systems and honestly esoteric religions, on all of this. And everyone right now is so paranoid and protective of their truth and their way of believing that it's made me a little bit shy of going into detail on some of these things. But I don't know. It's hard to separate humans from their belief systems. I've been trying to do that for about 8 years now. And everyone thinks I'm talking about everyone else when I say, we're in our own little distorted bubble. And this bubble was created by our distortions, and all the information that comes through the distorted bubble gets to us. And we protect those distortions because that's our understanding of the earth and reality, and we don't want anybody screwing with that. I found that screwing with people's understanding that they have created over time of reality, or their distortions of reality, is very dangerous. It is very dangerous if people feel like their bubble's being threatened.
I guess somebody here talking about taking an early leave of this life. I hope they're not talking about suicide, but I think suicide is not a good idea in any case.
Just kick right back. Yeah, you're just going to end up repeating what you checked out on anyway. I mean, if you quit, and then you're going to get thrown back in the game at some point, and they're not going to put you 3 moves ahead. They're going to start you right where you left off. So it is pretty much a waste of a cycle.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that electrical coils will still be able to generate electricity at some point after the event?
I mean, electricity will work and be generated the same way as before the event. You just have to recreate the basics over again. You have to cobble together. I mean, the machines and the robots that are used to build transformers aren't going to work. So, you're going to have to re-engineer the way you do things. It's going to take time.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, some people still bring up the idea that you had mentioned a different timeline that was the one you received from the SSP insiders, that the solar flash could happen around 2024.
Yeah, it's been really kind of shocking to me. It's kind of given me a perspective of when I deliver information, how the information goes through everybody's distortions and it makes it to their brain in a different way. Yeah. Everybody's brain in a different way. From the very beginning, I said that nobody knows the time or the hour, but the best guess that the SSP Alliance had made, their scientists had made, was around the 2024 time period. And that was their best guess. And then people only just took the dates and put it in their head, and they took out the warnings and the qualifications that, this is the humans trying to guess. And they locked it in, and they're like, oh no, you're changing the time period. How could you're not being consistent? This is what our best guess was, what the SSP Alliance, their scientists, what their best guess was, is that it was going to occur in the 2024 time period. We were told by the New Guardians when the time period was, and we have never been given that type of information by the Guardians before. And the Guardians are the ones that are interacting with the mind of God, basically, the one infinite creator, or the logos of the galaxy.
A lot of these questions are kind of repeats of things that we've talked about before, but one person simply asks, how do you know you're being told the truth?
I mean, what is the end game? Is the end game to take me and show me all of this elaborate stuff to bring down and empower humans with? Or is it most likely that the people that are being told the truth are the ones that are trying to get us to put chips in our brains? The beings, these are basically angelic beings, the guardians. They are in service to the one infinite creator. People can choose to believe it or not believe it. That's all on them. But I'm delivering the information as it was given to me.
One person is speculating around a scenario where they have to defend themselves, do you think that there be any spiritual consequences that people have to take out someone else's life as a matter of self-defense?
You're in the end, you judge yourself. That's the big secret. So I grew up the way I grew up in a military family and all of that. If someone tries to harm your family or you're completely justified in taking them out. I understand that a lot of people in this community are pacifists, and you can slap them in the face all you want, and they'll just sit there, and they're not going to fight back because they just don't believe in any type of fighting back. That's the extreme, and then there's people in between, in the middle. Depends on what you are. If it's your belief system that you cannot kill another human no matter what, even if that human's going to kill your family, you, or whatever, and you do end up killing them, then it's your belief system that you're going to be judged under. So, that's going to be on a person by person.
And it's actually an example specifically given in the Raw Contact that, times of war have been extremely catalytically beneficial because of the fact that it can lead a person to open their heart so quickly because of the intensity of the circumstance can bring a person to whether or not they're dying out of not wanting to shoot somebody or they're dying out of wanting to defend their family. Both situations can be very, very catalytically beneficial. But I had somebody, even after I mentioned that at a talk, come up to me like, I've been in warfare. I don't like hearing that it's a good thing.
People just, they don't understand. We're so locked into this life, and we don't want to lose this life. I mean, a lot of people in the community, they would get very upset when I would say, you're going to die. I'm going to die. Nothing's going to happen to where you become this eternal version of yourself. That's just not the way it works. Your soul's you're going to be the same soul, but you're going to have many, many incarnations. And people are so afraid of losing their life, and their ego is so tied into this existence that we've really lost touch with the true spiritual side of it. The fact that each lifetime is a school and a learning opportunity. And through many lives, do you become, a higher consciousness, fully higher consciousness being. It doesn't happen within the same body, and it's not going to. So, I mean, that's one of those things, people have all these different esoteric beliefs and religions about, levitating and reading people's minds and all of this other stuff and living forever, or at least living for 1,000 years. And that's fine to believe, but it's not a part of anything that I've seen. It's just not a part of the way the cosmos works. Just because we make it to the next level doesn't mean we're done and we can celebrate and go to heaven. We still, within the fourth density, we're going to have millions probably of years of evolving and reincarnating.
Mm-hmm. Trish asks, some of us are seeing blue flashes, blue orbs, softball size or sometimes different sizes during or after meditations or during deep thought. Do you have any insight on these?
No, usually seeing the blue spheres is an awakening, trying to awaken a starseed or remembering, trying to have them remember their mission. But I don't know. I couldn't speculate on what each individual's experience is when they're seeing the blue flashes or the blue light, which the blue spheres are just they're the energy that makes stuff happen in this universe, from the thought of God to its manifestation. It's like the intermediate energy. I don't know how to describe it, but it's that's the best I can describe it.
Yeah, I've had many experiences with orbs, but they haven't looked blue to me. They just look translucent white. And I've seen some coming in and out of my body. And I feel like when they go in my body, I can have very pleasant sensations. It's almost like there's some kind of energetic balancing thing they're doing when they go in and out of my body. I don't know exactly if that's the same thing though.
I don't know. A lot of times, the orbs that are translucent or white are actually disembodied spirits a lot of times too.
One person's asking, the term QFS keeps coming up, the quantum financial system. I don't know if you've got any information about that or if that's all.
Yeah, all of these different Jezra, whatever, all of these things have, and I've talked with people that have worked pretty high up in some of it, none of it ever really pans out.
Mm-hmm. And it can at worst, it can be a scam that people can end up losing money if they buy into something. Go back to some other questions here. So will humans on Earth live longer lives at some point?
Over time, yes. Yeah. But in the short term, no, we're going to have pretty similar lifespans.
Mm-hmm. But the Anshar live longer, and they're us from the future, right?
Yes. Yeah, like millions of years.
Mm-hmm. Trying to decide which ones to go to now. How do we help humanity see through all their own brainwashing? Is that part of our job?
I don't think it really is. All you do is enter into a new karmic entanglement when you try to awaken people. I think really it's just about focusing on yourself. If you can awaken people through your art or the work that you do, that's an amazing gift to the rest of humanity. But there's a certain group of people that just love being asleep, and and then there are the people that are awake. But some of the people that are the most dangerous are the people who think they're awake, but they're only sleepwalking. And there's a lot of those. Yeah, I don't remember the original question.
Yeah, how do we help people through their brainwashing, if we can? I've noticed though that it seems like it's really about invitations. If people are wanting to hear more about a particular subject, if you put a seed out there in conversation and they want to know more about that subject, then you have an open doorway to teach. But if there's no desire at all on their part to receive information, if they're not asking for anything, it's like there's no doorway.
Right.
Could you give a description of the ceremony that the Anshar and Zulu gave to you to cleanse your energy space? Is that how you described it?
You talked about in the pool?
I'm not sure. This person doesn't specify which one you're talking about, but maybe you could just go into any rituals that you would recommend for people to clear their space.
Well, I mean, clearing my space, I mean, I do it through meditation and prayer. And then, I take it to the next step. And, more than once a week, we clear the house with, burning, sage and putting crystals and salt in different areas to protect our space.
I guess we're getting low on related questions here. So if someone, oh yeah, we could talk about how much longer you want to go.
Yeah, not too much longer. My head is really, I'm having problems forming thoughts and turning them into speech.
Yeah, it's great to have a way that people could know that they'll get their questions answered if we keep on doing these meetings.
Yes.
And I think I probably should put up a form more visible to paying members on AWTV, where you'll just see a button at the top to ask questions for Corey, and we'll be more likely to have them consolidated in time for these meetings. So people ask about your necklace. What are you wearing and why?
Hematite. It grounds me very, very well. I've never had a stone or any type of mineral that when I take it off, I feel it leaving my field. I mean, I wear anywhere from 2 to 4 of these at a time, depending on the day.
One person says that their spouse doesn't like the idea of prepping. They're more into prepping than their spouses, and they're in a difficult situation. And it's almost like we don't want to get too much into their relationship issues, but
well, it depends. If you turn it into prepping for a solar event or aliens coming out of the sky, yeah, you're going to have problems. But if you watch the news with them and say, "You see this shit? We need to be prepared." The food. We have 3 days of food if things go south. In the grocery store or in our house. We need to be prepared in this economy. There could be like a civil unrest. There's all kinds of things. So I would bring it more down to earth, and not call it prepping. Just make it. And even bring in the FEMA has general recommendations for the population. And you can download a sheet from the FEMA website of all the different things you should have on hand, depending on if you live in a hurricane area or whatever, and start off with that. And, you may be surprised if you kind of do it on your own a bit at a time, and then you show them, hey, we are prepared. You may see they feel secure. And maybe they don't want to think about prepping because they don't want to think about the bad stuff. But if you can start bringing it in and making them feel more and more secure a little bit at a time, that might change.
You think there needs to be a balance between focusing on inner work and focusing on activism?
Activism and
breaking down the systems of control, the tyranny. I'm rephrasing some of these questions.
Yeah. The inner work is the most important thing. You have to be selfish about that. But a close second is trying to get out on the streets and organize and do what you can to stand up to the tyranny. Because if we just sit back and put our fingers in our ears, we'll find our freedom's gone very quickly.
Yeah, I find it very strange that I kind of naturally was brought to doing these space, Air Force Base protests and things like that. It was because of the fact that I felt the need to get more connected to my community through using the website meetup.com. I met people, they were very into the subject, and they were very interested in doing more to help bring about more awareness and change. So it seems like, I think as we develop a community around our interests, that does help boost us into being more proactive and making change in the world. And that's essentially what local governments are, is it's people getting together and saying, we want to do this for ourselves, instead of what in theory, a local government could stand up to the state government or the federal government if there's just enough people who are in agreement on something.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel there's a bridge between, focusing on spiritual work, maintaining love amongst everyone, and then that leads to outer change at a greater rate as well. So Is there anything else you feel is important for people to know about, what they should be doing, what they should be preparing for?
Just prepare mentally, physically, and spiritually. Don't leave one out. Focus on all three. If you focus on yourself mentally and spiritually, you're not going to be preparing physically out of fear. You're going to be, trying to take the fear out of what's coming is the biggest thing. It's the Anshar always, when I had the fear of big things coming up that I thought were negative, they always got excited and they said what a wonderful opportunity it was. And this is a wonderful opportunity for our species to reset once again. We've been given several chances to reset like this, and we've chosen to come back into through negative timelines previously. This is our opportunity to do a reset and reset into a positive timeline. And it's up to us, and the ones who prepare for this event will be the ones that are here after the event and help be a part of the new world and making the new timeline.
I think that's a great update. I think we can wrap it up here. Thank you guys for all the questions.
Yeah, sorry, my head's hurting. I'd like to have gone longer.
And we just released another episode yesterday. You can find it on essentialworks.tv. And we'll keep on releasing more and more, hopefully on a near weekly basis. We'll keep on releasing new content.
Yeah, I plan to do these often.
All right. Thank you again, Corey.
All right. Thank you, guys. See you next time.